A candle in the dark. Soundscape, soft night breeze, crackling candle flame, distant chimes. Welcome, dreamer. Tonight, we begin a journey through light and shadow, a calming exploration of the scientific discoveries that have shaped our world and brightened the corners of our understanding. You are here with the sleepy scientist, whose gentle voice will guide you through tales of wonder, curiosity, and peace. You lie nestled in a cozy bed, warm under soft blankets, while a flickering candle glows nearby. The light dances slowly, casting gentle shadows on the walls of your quiet room. Each flicker tells a story, of human minds that once lived in mystery and slowly found their way to illumination. The sleepy scientist enters, her footsteps soft, a journal in hand. She speaks with a kind voice, low and soothing. Let's begin, she says, with the light of a single flame, and the first questions ever asked beneath the stars. Long ago, before books and telescopes, before labs and libraries, people looked to the skies and the earth beneath their feet and wondered. What is the sun made of? Why does the moon change? Where does fire come from, and where does it go? You imagine yourself in a small ancient village, lying on a bed of woven grass inside a hut made of wood and clay. Outside, crickets sing in the warm night. Inside, a parent and child sit beside a fire, staring at its glowing heart. The parent whispers a story, not just a tale, but a theory, passed down through generations. They speak of spirits in the stars, of fire being stolen from the gods, of light chasing away darkness each dawn. The child listens wide-eyed, not with fear, but with wonder. And maybe, just maybe, that child grows up to ask new questions. Back in your cozy bed, the sleepy scientist opens her journal and reads aloud. Even before the word science existed, people were scientists. They asked questions. They tested ideas. They learned from the world itself, by watching, listening, and reflecting. She turns a page. In ancient Egypt, astronomers mapped the stars. In Mesopotamia, people recorded the seasons and tides. In China, shadow clocks were built to follow the sun. She pauses. Where there is curiosity, she says, there is always light. Outside your imagined room, a breeze flows through the trees, their leaves rustling like pages turning slowly in a book. The candle beside your bed glows brighter for a moment, casting a warm golden hue across the room. The sleepy scientist now leads you deeper into thought. Imagine the first time someone realized the moon reflected the sun's light, she says. Or that the stars moved with patterns and meaning. That water could boil, and fire could die, but both obeyed invisible rules. You feel a hush in the air. She smiles. And those invisible rules? They're still here. They're the language of the universe. Outside, the stars shimmer quietly in the night sky, and you picture each one like a tiny lantern hung in the heavens. Each a silent promise that even in darkness, there is something to see, something to learn, something to wonder about. The sleepy scientist gently closes her journal. Tonight, we honor the beginning, she says. The flame of curiosity. The candle in the dark. Your breath slows. Your body relaxes. The shadows around you grow long and soft. And the last thing you hear is the gentle crackle of the candle and her whisper. Rest now, dreamer. Let the light carry you into peaceful sleep. Tomorrow, we'll walk farther into the glow, and discover how shadows helped us see more clearly. Good night. Shadows on the wall. Soundscape, soft cave echoes, quiet firelight, night forest ambience. Welcome back, gentle dreamer. Tonight, we return to the sleepy scientist's cozy corner of the world, where quiet questions echo louder than the noise of the day, and peace floats gently on every breath. The wind outside is hushed. The stars blink slowly overhead. You're tucked in, snug beneath the covers, and across the room, the sleepy scientist sits again, by candlelight, her journal resting on her lap. Her voice is soft as velvet. Tonight, she begins, we'll follow light into shadow, and travel far back, to a place before books and machines, to a time when ideas were shaped by dancing silhouettes on the stone walls of caves. Your mind drifts, and suddenly you're there. It's tens of thousands of years ago, in a quiet cave deep beneath a hillside. Fire crackles at the center, casting golden-orange light across the walls. A small group of people gather around it, wrapped in furs. A child leans in close, watching the flickering images that leap and swirl in the shadows. Someone moves their hands in front of the flames, and a rabbit-shaped silhouette jumps onto the wall. A bird follows. Then a hunter. They laugh softly, delighted by the play of shadows. But somewhere in that group, a thoughtful gaze watches, wondering what light really is, and why shadows always fall the way they do. Even in that ancient moment, the sleepy scientist whispers, the seeds of discovery were quietly growing. She opens her journal and reads from an entry. Shadow taught us about light. And by studying the places light could not reach, we began to understand the way it traveled. Through this contrast, light and dark, we learned. Now your imagination glides forward to a marble city under a pale blue sky, ancient Greece. You find yourself standing in a sunlit courtyard beside a curious man named Plato. His mind is filled with questions. He speaks of people living in a cave, watching shadows on the wall, thinking they are real. He wonders if the true world lies beyond the cave, bathed in light and knowledge. This tale, this thought experiment, becomes one of the earliest sparks of philosophy and science. Plato believed that knowledge was like light, the sleepy scientist says. And that our minds could learn to see more clearly, if only we turned toward it. You drift deeper into the warmth of your blankets. Now you are with another wise figure, this time in ancient Egypt. A man named Eratosthenes notices that at noon on the summer solstice, the sun casts no shadow in one city, but does in another. From those shadows, he measures the size of the earth, with astonishing accuracy, all using simple geometry and the patient art of observation. The sleepy scientist closes her eyes and smiles. Shadows taught us the earth is round, she whispers. Long before anyone left the ground. Outside your window, the moon hangs low and luminous. It casts long shadows across the garden. A tree sways gently, painting movement on the lawn. Somewhere nearby, an owl calls softly. Peace settles in your chest like a feather. The contrast between light and shadow, she continues, teaches us balance. You can't see the beauty of the stars until the sky is dark. And you can't appreciate the light unless you've known a little night. You imagine your own hand, held up to a candle. You picture the warm glow outlining your fingers, the shadow behind it deep and soft. Light shapes the edges. Shadow gives them depth. Together, they create meaning. The sleepy scientist quietly sets down her journal. She walks to the window, where starlight peeks through gauzy curtains, and murmurs. Sleep well, little scientist. Let the day's questions soften. Let the world grow dim. In the darkness, we rest. And through rest, we begin to see. She dims the candle. The shadows fade. The silence grows rich and full. And slowly, gently, peacefully, you drift into sleep. The light of the stars. Soundscape, distant night crickets, soft crackle of a lantern, faint cosmic hum. Welcome again, gentle dreamer. Tonight, the sleepy scientist is waiting by her telescope beneath a sky full of stars. You settle back into your pillow as the world slows to a hush. The covers are warm and the room is still. She speaks softly, tonight, we look up. A cup of tea sits beside her journal. Outside her little window, stars twinkle above the tree line like scattered diamonds. But in her imagination, and now in yours, we drift far beyond the clouds, to a time when people first asked. What are those lights in the sky? Let your mind wander gently. You find yourself in ancient Mesopotamia. The air is warm. A quiet fire burns in the courtyard of a temple. Priests trace patterns in the stars above, recording them on clay tablets. They notice the steady paths of some lights, what we now call planets, and the constellations that remain year after year. They told stories about the stars, the sleepy scientist whispers. But they were also the world's first astronomers. We drift again, and now you're sailing with the Polynesians, masters of the night sea. No maps. No compasses. Only the stars. Their canoes glide over moonlit waves as they follow the arc of the Southern Cross, reading the sky like a storybook. They understood that light travels, says the sleepy scientist. That it can guide, inform, and inspire. Now your journey shifts to the sands of the Islamic Golden Age. You stand with Ibn al-Haytham, a philosopher in 10th century Cairo. He studies how light enters the eye. He questions how vision works. He writes of lenses, shadows, mirrors, and refraction. He planted the roots of modern optics, the sleepy scientist says. And he did it with lanterns and patience, not computers. Your breath grows slower now, matching the gentle rhythm of the night. Then we visit another thinker, Galileo Galilei, in 17th century Italy. You sit beside him in the cool twilight, watching as he lifts a simple telescope to the sky. What he sees changes everything. He discovers that Jupiter has moons. That the moon has craters. That Venus goes through phases like our own moon. All that from light, she says. Light bouncing off celestial bodies and entering a lens. You imagine the world waking up to this news. How it shifted how we see the cosmos. How it whispered, perhaps we are not the center after all. Outside, a breeze rustles the leaves. The stars above your home feel closer somehow. Light travels for billions of years to reach us, the sleepy scientist murmurs. Each speck in the night sky is a message from the past. She turns a page in her journal and reads something she wrote long ago. To look at the stars is to listen to ancient songs. To study their light is to hear the universe breathe. The telescope clicks softly as she adjusts it. A shooting star streaks silently across the sky. Back in bed, your mind gently floats between past and present, science and silence, stars and sleep. You hear her voice one last time tonight. Close your eyes. Let the darkness surround you. Let the light within guide you. You are made of stardust. And the universe is dreaming with you. The sky above fades to velvet. The journal closes. The tea goes cold. And you drift deeply into restful sleep. Shadows that shape the world. Soundscape, soft wind rustling through leaves, the creak of an old observatory chair, pencil on paper. Tonight, dear listener, we continue our peaceful journey through the quiet corridors of science and sleep. Let yourself rest deeply as we explore how shadows, those gentle shapes cast by light, have guided some of the most profound discoveries in human history. The sleepy scientist sits in her reading chair tonight, wrapped in a cozy shawl, a candle flickering on her desk. She picks up a soft charcoal pencil and gently sketches the silhouette of her favorite potted fern as the moonlight filters through her window. She smiles, whispering. Shadows may seem like the absence of light, but sometimes, they reveal more than light ever could. Close your eyes now, and drift with her to a sun-drenched stone courtyard in ancient Greece. The year is 240 BCE. You stand beside Eratosthenes, a brilliant thinker who works as the chief librarian of the Great Library of Alexandria. On this warm summer solstice, he notices that in Syene, a far-off city to the south, the sun is directly overhead, no shadows are cast. But here, in Alexandria, shadows stretch from every vertical pole. Eratosthenes doesn't just notice this, he measures it. Using simple geometry and the lengths of shadows, he calculates the circumference of the earth. The sleepy scientist's voice is like a lullaby. With nothing but light and shadow, he mapped our world, over 2,000 years ago. Let your mind wander again, this time to 1666, to a quiet room in Woolsthorpe Manor, England. The plague has closed the universities, and a young student named Isaac Newton is home alone. He watches as sunlight streams through a small hole in his curtain, casting a narrow beam into the darkened room. Curious, he holds a glass prism in its path. The light splits, and color spills across the wall, reds, greens, violets. Shadows of the rainbow stretch and shift. And just like that, Newton begins to unravel the mystery of light itself, discovering that white light is made up of many colors. You hear the sleepy scientist murmur. Even in the stillness of isolation, great understanding can bloom, from shadows and silence. Now, let's glide softly into a different kind of shadow. The 1800s. An eclipse darkens the sky over Indonesia. Scientists from around the world gather to observe this fleeting moment when the moon perfectly blocks the sun's brilliant face. Through their telescopes, they spot flames dancing around the sun, what we now call solar prominences, and begin to understand the sun's complex, roiling atmosphere. These temporary shadows became tools of discovery, revealing things that could never be seen in full daylight. The sleepy scientist turns a page in her journal. Shadow is not the enemy of light, she writes. It is its most devoted companion. Back in her cabin, the candle begins to burn low. She reaches for a thin strip of film and holds it toward the flame. It's an old photograph from 1895, the very first X-ray ever taken. The outline of a hand, bones starkly lit against dark film. It was light's shadow that let us see beneath the skin, she says softly. And it changed medicine forever. Outside, the night deepens. You sink deeper into your pillow. The gentle weight of the blankets reminds you of gravity, the same force that Newton uncovered while resting beneath a tree. Your breath grows slower. You feel the stillness of the room around you, the hush of the hour, the way soft moonlight wraps everything in silver. To study shadow, the sleepy scientist whispers, is to listen to what light is trying to say. She sets down her sketchbook. Outside, the stars blink peacefully, each one casting ancient shadows across distant moons and quiet craters. And just like that, you find yourself slipping into the embrace of sleep. Softly, silently. Guided by light. Comforted by shadow. Light through the ages, the flame of curiosity. Soundscape, crackling fire, soft footsteps on stone, and a faint breeze winding through ancient halls. Tonight, we continue our restful journey with the sleepy scientist as she explores how humanity's relationship with light has transformed through the centuries, from flickering torches to glowing stars, from curiosity to great discoveries. You're resting now, safe and still, as the sleepy scientist gently lights a small oil lamp. The golden flame dances within the glass, casting moving shadows across her desk. Her cat curls beside her, purring, warmed by the flame. Light, she says softly, has always been more than survival. It has been a guide, a symbol, a question. Close your eyes as we travel back, way back, to the earliest flickers of human awareness. Imagine a cave deep in prehistoric France, 30,000 years ago. The air is cool and damp. You see the soft glow of a flame as a small group huddles together, painting animals and symbols onto the stone walls. A torch flickers in the hands of a young artist, and the shadows it casts bring the painted horses and deer to life. The first use of light to tell a story, a dream passed down through darkness. The sleepy scientist smiles as she places a fossilized shell onto her shelf. Long before the written word, we used flame to capture imagination, to remember, to dream. Now float gently to ancient Egypt. The sun god Ra travels the sky each day, casting light upon the world. His descent each night is not an end, but a journey through the underworld, where he battles darkness before rising again. To the ancient Egyptians, light was sacred. Temples were built to capture the sun at exact moments. Light would flood in through hidden openings, illuminating a single statue or altar only on the solstice. The sleepy scientist brushes her fingers across a sun-shaped pendant. They believed light had power. And maybe they were right. As you breathe gently, let's drift forward through time again. Ancient Greece. Here, Archimedes wonders about mirrors and light rays. He builds polished bronze shields that reflect sunlight across distances, an early experiment with concentrated beams. The Greeks believed in light as a particle, she murmurs, while others thought it a wave. It would take many centuries before we understood, it is both. Breathe in deeply, and breathe out slowly. Now the 9th century. The Islamic Golden Age. The sleepy scientist lifts her lantern gently. Alhazen opened our eyes to vision itself, and with it, the birth of optics. You begin to feel even more relaxed now, floating, dreaming, drifting like a beam of light bouncing from mirror to mirror. Let's visit one more place before sleep takes you completely. Venice, Italy. The 1600s. Glassmakers in Murano shape delicate lenses by hand. These lenses are sent to Galileo, who arranges them into a telescope. Through it, he peers at the stars, and suddenly, the moons of Jupiter come into view. With that lens, she whispers, Galileo saw proof that not all things revolve around Earth. It was a discovery made possible by light, captured, bent, and focused by human hands. Back in her quiet cabin, the sleepy scientist leans back in her chair. The flames have dimmed now, casting soft shadows. From cave fires to telescopes, our search for light has always been a search for meaning. Outside, the stars begin to blink into view. You imagine the light from those stars, how it has traveled millions of years just to reach your eyes tonight. And now, nestled in your blankets, calm and at peace, you feel that same light brushing gently across your eyelids. You are safe. You are warm. You are part of a story written in starlight. And you drift off, slowly, deeply. Carried by the glow of 1,000 forgotten flames. Telescopes and time, peering into the past. Soundscape, soft ticking of an antique clock, distant echo of wind across mountaintops, faint starry chimes. As night stretches across the sky, the sleepy scientist stands on a quiet hillside, where the stars above shimmer like diamonds. Her notebook is tucked beneath her arm, and her breath fogs gently in the cool evening air. A telescope, tall and silent, waits by her side. Light, she whispers, is not just brightness. It's a messenger from long ago. Tonight, you'll fall asleep with her beneath the stars as we explore how scientists use telescopes to reach across the void of time. Let your breathing soften as we travel to the 17th century, to the city of Padua in Italy. There stands Galileo Galilei, holding a long brass telescope. The device is humble, no more than 2 lenses held together in a tube, but it opens the heavens like a book. He points it toward the moon, and gasps. The surface is not smooth and perfect, as many believed, it is pocked with craters and mountains. He turns the scope toward Jupiter, and sees tiny stars moving around the planet. They are moons, he writes. And not everything circles Earth. Let your thoughts drift like stardust. You are weightless, gliding through time. Now we arrive in the 18th century. In England, William Herschel builds massive telescopes in his backyard, mirrors polished by hand. With these powerful tools, he discovers Uranus, a new planet beyond Saturn. It is a quiet, bluish world, invisible to the naked eye. He found a world, the sleepy scientist says softly, by collecting the faintest flicker of light. As your body sinks deeper into comfort, you imagine Herschel's telescope. It is pointed toward a glowing patch in the sky, the Andromeda Galaxy. But he doesn't know yet that this blur is not a star, but another galaxy, millions of light years away. Inhale slowly. Exhale completely. You're floating again, into the 20th century. Now we're in California, atop Mount Wilson. A huge telescope is aimed at the heavens. Here, Edwin Hubble gazes through the eyepiece and sees something astonishing. Distant galaxies are not stationary, they are moving away. The universe is expanding. This changed everything, the sleepy scientist whispers. It meant the universe had a beginning, and maybe a destiny. Relax into the idea that even now, light from ancient galaxies is still traveling toward us, like a cosmic postcard, arriving after billions of years. The sleepy scientist adjusts her telescope. You peer through the lens and see distant starlight, some from stars that have already burned out, their light still traveling through the dark. This light is a time traveler. We're not just seeing the stars, she murmurs, we're seeing history written in photons. Above you, the James Webb Space Telescope drifts through orbit, collecting light from the dawn of time. It can see galaxies that formed just after the Big Bang. Galaxies that look like bright smudges in a sea of nothingness. And yet, every point of light is a home, a possibility, a mystery. Back on the hillside, the sleepy scientist gently caps the telescope and smiles at the starry sky. Looking up, she says, is also a way of looking back, and remembering how far we've come. Let her words settle over you like a blanket of starlight. Close your eyes. Feel the stillness. Let yourself drift. You are safe. You are curious. You are part of this glowing universe. And now, guided by the quiet light of ancient stars, you fall softly, deeply, into sleep. The discovery of invisible light, beyond what eyes can see. Soundscape, a soft humming tone, the rustle of turning pages, the gentle flicker of candlelight. As the night deepens and the stars twinkle silently above, the sleepy scientist walks through a library lit only by lanterns. The shelves are heavy with old tomes, books that speak of light, shadow, and mystery. She moves softly, her fingers brushing the leather spines of texts written long ago. What we see, she whispers, is only the beginning. Tonight, we journey into the world beyond the visible, where scientists discovered that light comes in many invisible forms, shapes of energy that changed our understanding of nature itself. Settle in and let your body rest as we travel to the year 1800, to a quiet observatory in Bath, England. Here, William Herschel, the very same man who discovered Uranus, conducts an unusual experiment with a prism and a thermometer. He breaks sunlight into its familiar rainbow, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet, and wonders, where is the most heat? Curiously, he places a thermometer just beyond the red light, where no color can be seen. And the reading rises. There is light beyond red, Herschel records with surprise. A light we cannot see, but can feel. He had just discovered infrared radiation, light that warms, but hides from the eye. Let that warmth settle into your chest now, like soft sunshine across your blanket. Now, drift forward just 1 year to 1801, where Johann Ritter tries something similar at the other end of the spectrum. He exposes silver chloride to different colors of light. The chemical darkens faster in blue light than in red. But then he places it just beyond violet, again, where no visible light remains, and it darkens fastest of all. There is light beyond violet, Ritter concludes. It is powerful, though invisible. He had discovered ultraviolet radiation. Your body sinks into deeper comfort as you begin to realize that light is not a narrow beam, it is a vast, unseen symphony of waves. Next, we float to the late 19th century, to the lab of James Clerk Maxwell, a Scottish physicist with a wild imagination and a sharp pencil. Maxwell writes out equations that describe electric and magnetic fields. But when he combines them, something magical happens. The math predicts a wave that travels through empty space, needing no wires, no medium. Just motion. Energy. Light. He realizes, these are electromagnetic waves. Light is electricity in motion. And not just light, but radio waves, microwaves, X-rays, and more. all part of one grand spectrum. We don't just see light, the sleepy scientist murmurs. We feel it, hear it, transmit it. We are surrounded by it. Picture this now, the room around you bathed not just in candlelight, but in invisible signals, Wi-Fi, radio, thermal energy, all swirling quietly like wind across a field. You rest peacefully, knowing your body senses some of these waves without you realizing. The warmth of a blanket is infrared. The sunlight that nourishes your skin is part ultraviolet. And deep in your bones, your body whispers its own electromagnetic song, your heartbeat, your nerves, your thoughts, flickers of electricity in perfect rhythm. Let your breath slow. Let your thoughts quiet. You are part of this invisible light show. And just like Herschel and Ritter once did, you realize. Even in silence, even in stillness, the world glows with unseen wonder. The dance of shadows, solar eclipses and ancient wonder. Soundscape, a soft desert wind, distant birds, and the quiet shifting of sand beneath feet. As the sleepy scientist nestles into a soft chair by the observatory window, the moon begins to rise in a sky tinged with twilight lavender. She opens a weathered notebook filled with sketches of the moon and sun, of darkened skies and shimmering crowns of light. Tonight, she whispers, we follow the shadow. Let your body relax as we drift gently back in time, thousands of years, across oceans and deserts, to a wide plain where ancient astronomers lie beneath a wide-open sky. They watch the heavens not with telescopes, but with open hearts and curious minds. And then, suddenly, the sun begins to disappear. A solar eclipse. Imagine the awe as daylight dims, birds grow silent, and a strange chill settles in the air. The moon, in perfect alignment, passes in front of the sun, a celestial shadow sliding across Earth's surface. Why does the light vanish? An ancient voice wonders. And who commands the sky? These early watchers, Babylonians, Mayans, Chinese stargazers, began to chart the heavens. They discovered that eclipses followed patterns, and with this knowledge, they could predict the future. From fear to fascination, eclipses became moments of reflection, of ritual, and scientific insight. They were among the first clues that light could be interrupted, bent, and understood. Let your thoughts float like clouds as we travel to India in the 5th century, where the mathematician Aryabhata proposes that the moon and sun cast shadows, and eclipses are natural, not divine punishment. Then to ancient Greece, where Aristarchus dreams of a heliocentric universe, using the shadow of the Earth on the moon during a lunar eclipse to estimate the distance between Earth and the sun. Let your body feel the calm weight of the Earth beneath you, spinning slowly, casting its own shadow across the universe. Now gently journey to 1919, when British astronomer Sir Arthur Eddington travels to an island off the coast of Africa. There, during a total eclipse, he photographs the positions of stars around the sun. And what he sees is astonishing. The stars appear to shift. The sun's gravity had bent their light. Eddington had just confirmed Einstein's theory of general relativity. A moment that would forever reshape our view of gravity, time, and light. Even gravity, the sleepy scientist says softly, can bend light. The universe plays with its own shadows. Outside the observatory, the moon has now risen high. It casts a quiet silver glow across the land. Trees stretch their fingers, and the shadows they form ripple gently in the breeze. You might notice, as you drift off, how shadows speak in silence. They move as light moves. They reveal depth, shape, and texture. Light defines the world, but it is shadow that gives it form. Tonight, as you lie in your cozy bed, feel the dance of light and dark around you. The comfort of shadows. The wonder of eclipses. And the quiet truth, even in moments of darkness, light is always there, waiting to return. The first light bulb, a glow that changed the night. Soundscape, a gentle hum of electricity, soft crackling like old filament bulbs warming up, and rain tapping on a window. As the night stretches quietly outside the observatory, the sleepy scientist turns the pages of a glowing journal, lit softly not by candlelight or stars, but by a warm yellow bulb above her desk. There was a time, she muses aloud, when the dark ruled our world completely. Tonight, we travel through the history of how humans turn darkness into light, not through fire or flame, but through the remarkable magic of electricity. Let your breath slow as we journey first to the 1800s, to a workshop filled with coils, glass tubes, and dreams. Here is Humphrey Davy, an English scientist who discovers that passing current through thin strips of carbon creates a dazzling burst of light, a carbon arc lamp. It is not yet perfect, but the spark is born. Next comes Warren de la Rue, wrapping a coil of platinum in a vacuum tube. And then Joseph Swan in Britain and Thomas Edison in America, both racing toward a practical solution, a light that was not just bright, but long-lasting. Edison, often credited with the invention of the first commercially viable light bulb, uses a carbonized bamboo filament that glows for over 1,200 hours. Close your eyes and imagine the world before that moment, candlelit streets, flickering oil lamps, and deep shadows stretching through every corridor. Then, slowly, towns begin to shimmer at night. Homes are filled with a quiet golden glow. Night becomes not an end, but a continuation. The light bulb doesn't just brighten rooms, it transforms the rhythm of civilization. Work can continue, the sleepy scientist says softly, books can be read, families can gather, all after sundown. From this tiny glowing filament, we journey forward. Light bulb in time, fluorescent lights arrive, glowing from ionized gas. Then halogen, and later, LEDs, tiny semiconductors that can shine for tens of thousands of hours on just a whisper of energy. Let your body feel as if it's floating gently down a tunnel of softly glowing bulbs. Each one a step on the path from night's mystery to human ingenuity. You may even picture cities from space, constellations of glowing light that mirror the stars above. Our technology, shining from Earth, becomes part of the fabric of night. But the sleepy scientist pauses here. Too much light, she murmurs, can also hide the stars. She turns off the desk lamp and looks out the window. The sky above is still, scattered with dim constellations. In places with too many lights, the stars disappear, a reminder that darkness, too, has value. So, she lights a single candle. Not out of necessity, but out of reverence, for the days when shadows were companions and fire was sacred. Tonight, as you rest, you are part of this continuum, from campfire sparks to glowing city streets. You carry the warmth of all who sought to chase away darkness. And now, surrounded by gentle shadows and soft illumination, let your body sink into peace. You're safe. The light is always near. Sleep well, little scientist. Microscopes and the invisible world. Soundscape, delicate ticking of a clock, soft bubbling of water under a glass slide, and the occasional gentle scratch of a quill on paper. The sleepy scientist leans over her antique microscope, its polished brass shimmering in the lamplight. Tonight's journey is inward, not outward. It is a voyage into the invisible worlds beneath our eyes. She places a thin glass slide under the lens and turns the knob slowly, gently. With a little click, the lens aligns, and what was once a smear of water becomes a universe. We often think of discovery as something vast, she whispers, but sometimes, the greatest revolutions begin in a single drop. Long ago, before people knew of cells or bacteria, the world seemed composed only of what we could touch and see. But then came Anton van Leeuwenhoek, a Dutch cloth merchant in the 1600s, who ground lenses as a hobby. With his handmade microscope, he peered into pond water and saw tiny creatures swimming. So small, they had never been imagined. He called them animalcules, and though he did not fully understand them, he knew something incredible: there was life hidden in the places no one had thought to look. The sleepy scientist turns another page in her leather-bound journal, revealing sketches of strange shapes, spirals, rods, spheres. These were the first glimpses of bacteria, of cells, of the microscopic architecture that makes up everything living. Take a deep breath as you imagine yourself shrinking, gently, safely, becoming smaller than a grain of sand, then smaller than a single cell, floating among forests of tiny cilia waving like sea grass, past bustling highways of organelles, inside the soft electric rhythm of life. Cells divide, DNA coils, tiny proteins move like microscopic machines. With microscopes, she says, we not only discovered illness, we discovered how life heals. In time, we learned how white blood cells battle invaders. How tissues knit themselves whole. How cancer grows, and how we might learn to stop it. Microscopes allowed us to witness embryos forming, the mystery of fertilization, and even the first spark of life. Let your imagination drift now into the clean, silent rooms of a modern lab, where a scientist gazes through a compound scope, tracing the development of a single neuron, watching as it reaches out, searching for connection. Then back further, into classrooms where students gaze through glass for the first time and gasp at the motion in a single drop of water. This is awe born not of size, but of hidden wonder. The sleepy scientist carefully covers her slide and returns the microscope to its case, humming a lullaby to the world within. Outside, the moon glows softly. Its light feels distant, but familiar, just as the invisible worlds beneath us are close, yet hidden. We are more than we can see, she whispers. And that has always been true. You breathe slower now. Comforted. Curious. Cradled in the quiet joy of knowing that mystery surrounds us, beneath skin, behind stone, beyond sky. Drift gently into sleep, and let the tiniest wonders keep you company. Good night, explorer of the unseen. Milky Way. The invention of the telescope and the heavens revealed. Soundscape, the soft rustle of pages, a gentle night wind, and the occasional hoot of an owl in the distance. Tonight, our journey with the sleepy scientist takes us not into the small, but into the vast, the wide dome of stars above our heads. She sits by her window, her telescope angled toward the twilight sky. The lens glints in the moonlight as she adjusts the focus and smiles. Let's look up together, she whispers. And remember the moment humans saw the stars not just as lights, but as worlds. Before the telescope, the sky was a canvas of mystery. The stars were fixed. The heavens divine. Planets were called wandering stars, and no one knew why they moved differently. Then, in the early 1600s, Galileo Galilei, curious and defiant, turned a simple tube of lenses to the sky. What he saw changed everything. He saw craters on the moon, proving it wasn't a smooth, perfect sphere. He saw moons orbiting Jupiter, revealing that not everything circled the Earth. And Saturn, it had strange ears, he thought, what we now know are rings. These first blurry views of the cosmos sparked something deeper in our minds, a sense of place, and a deeper hunger for understanding. The sleepy scientist shows you sketches from Galileo's notebook. The tiny dots that marked the moons of Jupiter. The phases of Venus. The patterns of sunspots. These discoveries told us something profound, she says gently. That we are not the center, but we are still part of it all. Drift with her now through a mental observatory, cool, quiet, the roof slowly sliding open. The night sky appears overhead, velvet and vast. Through the telescope, stars multiply. Galaxies swirl like pinwheels. Nebulae pulse like glowing clouds. You follow her gaze as she traces constellations, Orion's belt, Cassiopeia's throne, the Pleiades clustered like diamonds. Each star is a sun. Each dot a possible home. And as telescopes grew more powerful, from refracting to reflecting, to space-based marvels like Hubble and James Webb, we peered back in time, to see the universe as it was billions of years ago. Through glass and gravity, she says, we've seen our own beginnings. Beyond stars and galaxies, we've discovered black holes, where even light cannot escape. We've found exoplanets in the habitable zone. And we've begun to wonder, in quiet awe, are we alone? But tonight, we're not alone. We're here with the sleepy scientist. With the night. With the slow, reassuring turning of the earth. She tucks her telescope away, gazes up one last time, and closes her journal with care. Light reveals, she murmurs, and shadow reminds us there's always more to discover. The stars above you blink gently as you close your eyes. A quiet breeze stirs the curtains. Your breath slows to match the rhythm of the cosmos. And you drift, softly, sweetly, into the arms of sleep, guided by curiosity, and held in the gravity of wonder. Good night, stargazer. Shooting star. The mystery of radio waves and the hidden signals of the universe. Soundscape, gentle static, a soft cosmic hum, and the chirping of crickets under a starry sky. As the sleepy scientist opens her journal tonight, the pages are lined with gentle sketches of waves, spirals, and antennas pointing into a velvet sky. She sits by an old wooden desk, a small glowing radio beside her, softly hissing and crackling in the background. Have you ever wondered, she begins with a hushed voice, how sound travels, not through wires or air, but through space itself? She smiles and turns a small knob, the static quiets, and a faint, rhythmic signal pulses through. Not music. Not speech. But something older. Stranger. That's the universe, she whispers. Talking. Tonight's journey takes us back to the late 19th century, when scientists first began to understand that light wasn't alone. There were other invisible waves, ones that didn't flicker like candlelight or beam like sunshine. They rolled through the world in silence, radio waves. Enter a man named Heinrich Hertz, who proved that these waves could be generated and detected. And not long after, Guglielmo Marconi would send the first wireless message across the Atlantic, bridging continents through thin air. But what truly fascinates the sleepy scientist isn't just communication. It's the realization that the universe is full of signals. Stars, pulsars, galaxies, all sending out whispers in radio waves. She invites you to imagine drifting through space in a quiet spacecraft, wrapped in warmth and silence. All around, invisible rivers of energy hum. Your craft has a great dish antenna, listening. A distant pulsar ticks like a perfect cosmic clock. A spinning quasar sends out jets of radiation millions of light-years away. Even the echo of the Big Bang, the cosmic microwave background, can be heard as a faint hiss, the oldest song in the universe. We don't always need eyes to see, she says gently. Sometimes, we listen to understand. She tells you of the day, in 1967, when Jocelyn Bell Burnell, a young radio astronomer, spotted something strange, a regular pulsing signal coming from deep space. At first, they jokingly called it LGM, for little green men, because it seemed almost artificial. But it turned out to be the first known pulsar, a collapsed star spinning rapidly, sending out beams like a lighthouse in space. The sleepy scientist pours warm tea and reflects. These discoveries remind us that there's always more beyond the visible. There are messages all around us, if only we know how to listen. She opens a window. The night hums softly. Somewhere in the stillness, a memory of those ancient waves drifts by. Now imagine, as your thoughts slow and settle, that you're curled up inside a quiet observatory. No noise. Just the occasional soft beep from the machine receiving data from a distant star. Each sound is a gift from the cosmos, a quiet reminder that you are connected to something infinitely vast, and gently pulsing with energy. As your breathing deepens, your body sinks into stillness. May your dreams tonight, she says, carry the calm of stars and the silence between them. Close your eyes now. Let the signal fade into your subconscious. Let the wave carry you, soft, slow, serene. And sleep. The telescope and the invention of vision. Soundscape, soft wind brushing through trees, distant owl calls, and a slow, rhythmic ticking of a clock. The sleepy scientist sits at her windowsill tonight, the telescope by her side gleaming faintly under a silver moon. Her tea steams gently on a nearby shelf, and in her lap lies a well-worn journal filled with drawings of moons, planets, and faraway stars. There was once a time, she whispers, when the stars were just tiny lights above. Little did we know, they were entire worlds. Tonight's tale is about the invention that changed how we see everything, the telescope. She guides us to the early 1600s, to the quiet town of Padua, where Galileo Galilei lifted his handmade telescope to the night sky, and saw the impossible. He discovered moons orbiting Jupiter, proving not all heavenly bodies circled the Earth. He saw craters on the Moon, phases of Venus, and the Milky Way as a tapestry of countless stars. He didn't just see, the sleepy scientist smiles, he revealed. Before Galileo, the sky was symbolic, stars fixed in a perfect dome. But through the lens, that ancient illusion shattered. The telescope became a portal to truth, and it ushered in a new age of astronomy and curiosity. She invites you now to imagine standing on a quiet hilltop. A cool breeze brushes past as you peer through a telescope. The sky above is a vast velvet canopy, scattered with diamonds. You adjust the lens, and suddenly, Saturn appears, with its magnificent rings like a hula hoop of light. Next, you tilt upward to catch a glimpse of Andromeda, the galaxy closest to our own, millions of stars, shimmering in a delicate swirl. The sleepy scientist explains that as technology evolved, so too did our ability to see the unseen. We invented radio telescopes, X-ray telescopes, and eventually the Hubble Space Telescope, which now floats in orbit, offering humanity breathtaking views of nebulas, star births, and the remnants of ancient galaxies. We didn't just invent a tool, she whispers. We invented a new kind of sight. The stars no longer feel so far away. And now, your imagination drifts deeper. You're aboard a quiet observatory high in the mountains. The dome roof slides open with a whisper, revealing the sky. You lie back in a soft recliner, a blanket over your legs, and watch as the telescope points to the heavens. There's no rush. The stars aren't going anywhere. You're calm, safe, and surrounded by the wonders of the universe. The sleepy scientist closes her journal with a quiet sigh of gratitude. Through every lens, she says, we find more light. And sometimes, in that light, we find ourselves. Now allow your breath to slow. Let your mind wander. And gently fall into the dreaming space between galaxies. Sleep deeply, traveler of the stars. X-rays and the hidden layers within. Soundscape, a quiet hospital corridor, the soft hum of distant machines, and a calming piano melody in the background. The sleepy scientist wraps herself in a cozy shawl tonight, her lamp glowing a warm amber hue. A small glass cube sits on her desk, filled with swirling mist and tiny flickers of light. It's her reminder that not all truths are visible to the eye. What if, she says gently, you could see beneath the surface, of stone, of bodies, even of stars? Tonight's tale is about the miraculous, invisible discovery of X-rays. She takes you back to 1895, to the laboratory of Wilhelm Röntgen, a quiet German physicist. One evening, while experimenting with cathode rays and electric currents, he noticed something strange. A glowing light, emitted from a nearby screen, though no visible rays had touched it. He had accidentally discovered a new kind of invisible light, what he called X-radiation, because he didn't yet know what it was. The first X-ray image he took was of his wife's hand. Her bones were clearly visible, and her wedding ring glowed faintly on her finger. When she saw it, she gasped and said, "I have seen my own death." But this strange discovery wasn't a cause for fear, it was a window into the body, into life itself. Doctors could now look inside without cutting open. It transformed medicine forever. The sleepy scientist now invites you into a dream world, where you're walking through a shimmering forest made of glass and starlight. The trees are transparent. As moonlight passes through their trunks, you see glowing veins within, sap flowing like golden rivers. Your steps make no sound as you walk along a crystalline path. Around you, everything glows from within, butterflies whose wings reveal delicate patterns of energy, and stones that pulse softly like quiet heartbeats. You realize this place isn't magical, it's simply revealing the layers normally hidden. In this land, everything is honest. There are no shadows, only depth. Back in the lab, the sleepy scientist smiles as she carefully adjusts a vintage X-ray tube. She explains how these rays don't just help doctors, they let archaeologists see into ancient scrolls, help airport security see inside suitcases, and allow physicists to study black holes, where even light cannot escape. X-rays taught us that the world is deeper than it looks. That sometimes, what matters most is what's beneath. You now imagine lying on a soft examination table, but not in a hospital. This one is suspended in the stars. A gentle light flows over you, not harsh, but warm. It reveals your heart, beating steadily. Your lungs, filled with breath. Your bones, strong and beautiful. And beyond even that, it sees your dreams. The sleepy scientist sets the X-ray device aside and turns out the light. Close your eyes, she whispers. Even in the dark, there is light inside you. So now, let the world fade. Let your thoughts soften. Let the glow of curiosity guide you to rest. You are safe. You are whole. And beneath the surface, you are made of stardust. Einstein's light, bending time with a thought. Soundscape, the soft ticking of a clock, gentle ambient strings, and the hum of the cosmos. The sleepy scientist is bundled up tonight in a cozy cardigan, seated beside an antique grandfather clock. Its pendulum swings gently. She places her hand over its glass, watching the motion. Tonight, she begins, we enter a world where time stretches, space curves, and light shows us the truth behind illusion. She reaches for a small, worn notebook on her desk, one with scribbled equations and diagrams. It belonged to Albert Einstein, or rather, to a dreamer much like him. And tonight, she invites you into that dream. It begins in 1905, in a quiet patent office in Bern, Switzerland. Einstein was not a professor yet, nor famous. He worked quietly reviewing inventions, but his mind was busy chasing light. He imagined a beam of light, pure and fast, and asked, what would it feel like to ride that beam? What he discovered, through thought alone, would become the theory of special relativity. Time, he proposed, doesn't tick at the same speed for everyone. If you moved fast, close to the speed of light, time would slow for you. A person on a speeding spaceship might age slower than someone on Earth. Light, he realized, is the ultimate speed limit. Nothing in the universe travels faster. Now, let your imagination drift. You are lying on a warm, silver cloud, floating through the stars. Around you, space itself gently bends and ripples like a quiet lake. In the distance, a star glows. But as you approach, you notice something strange. Its light curves, bending around an invisible mass. You realize you're seeing gravitational lensing, a cosmic illusion predicted by Einstein's later theory, general relativity. Mass, he said, tells space how to curve. And curved space tells matter how to move. You float past a black hole, its gravity so strong that light cannot escape. But it's beautiful, not frightening. The stars behind it appear doubled, warped by the hole's immense gravity, like viewing them through a magnifying glass in the sky. Back in her lab, the sleepy scientist places a tiny marble on a stretched rubber sheet. It sinks, curving the surface, just like a planet curves space. She gently rolls another marble nearby, and it spirals in, pulled by the curve. A simple model of how gravity truly works. She looks up and smiles. Einstein didn't need a spaceship or a telescope to see this, she says. He saw it with thought alone. His insights changed everything, from how we understand black holes to how your GPS works today. Even now, satellites must account for relativity, because time ticks slightly faster in orbit than it does on Earth. Tonight, as you lie in bed, you can imagine that you, too, are traveling with light. Close your eyes. Feel time stretch like a silk ribbon. Let space cradle you in gentle curves. You are part of the great cosmic ballet. And your breath, steady and calm, keeps time with the stars. The sleepy scientist dims her lamp. Outside, the stars will slowly overhead, like a clock without hands. Sleep now, she whispers, and let time bend softly around your dreams. The hidden world of atoms, peering into the invisible. Soundscape, gentle bubbling, soft clinks of glassware, and a faint humming beneath it all, like electrons dancing in space. The sleepy scientist welcomes you into her laboratory once again, this time with dim lights and magnifying lenses scattered across the desk. There's a quiet excitement in her voice. Tonight, she says softly, we're going to shrink ourselves down, smaller than dust, smaller than cells, all the way down to the mysterious world of atoms. You sit beside her as she draws a circle on a chalkboard. A nucleus, she explains. And then, tiny orbits, where electrons buzz like fireflies around a campfire. This is the world that John Dalton, Marie Curie, Ernest Rutherford, and Niels Bohr helped unveil. It is strange. It is invisible. But it is everywhere. The sleepy scientist taps on a thick book, worn at the edges. It contains the earliest atomic theories, ideas from the time of ancient Greece. Democritus imagined that everything was made of atomos, uncuttable particles. He didn't have evidence. Just imagination. Centuries later, scientists would gather that evidence through experiment and intuition. They discovered that matter wasn't continuous, it was made of tiny building blocks, each with its own weight, behavior, and identity. As you close your eyes, imagine you are floating down into a single drop of water. You pass a lily pad, then a ripple, then a single molecule, and now, you're moving through a universe of atoms. Vast spaces separate them, but their cores are dense, full of energy and possibility. You float past oxygen atoms, shaped like dancers swirling with hydrogen. These are the water molecules, 2 hydrogen, 1 oxygen, H2O. And they're not still. They spin. They vibrate. They bond and break, and bond again. All of chemistry, the sleepy scientist whispers, is a dance of electrons, sharing, stealing, partnering, in a quiet, ceaseless rhythm. You continue your microscopic journey into a piece of gold. Atoms line up like coins in perfect stacks. They glint and shimmer with the soft light of physics. Then you drift toward something less orderly, a living cell. Here, carbon atoms team up with hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus. They build spirals of DNA, and strands of proteins, the building blocks of life itself. Even your thoughts, your dreams, your heartbeat, are all the result of these tiny, buzzing pieces coming together in just the right way. We used to think atoms were solid little balls, she continues. But they are mostly empty space, filled with fields, waves, and possibilities. In her hand, the sleepy scientist holds a model. It's not a marble, it's a cloud. This is the quantum model of the atom, where electrons don't orbit like planets, but exist in shimmering clouds of probability. You imagine it now, the space inside you is full of movement, of light, of particles appearing and disappearing. Like fireflies blinking in the dusk. She reminds you that some atoms in your body, carbon, calcium, iron, were made in the heart of dying stars. You are not just made of atoms. You are made of stardust. The thought makes you feel both small and infinite. The room grows quiet. The lights dim. Sleep now, the sleepy scientist says. Your body is a marvel of atoms, dancing through time. Let them rest. Let them hum. Let them dream. Outside, the night deepens. Inside, the invisible becomes luminous. And you, floating on waves of light and silence, are carried off to sleep. Light in a jar, the tale of electricity. Soundscape, a distant, soft hum of static. Occasional gentle pops, like a far-off thunderstorm. A slow crackle of an Edison bulb warming up. Tonight, the sleepy scientist guides you into a softly lit room where the past still glows, literally. On a shelf rest old lanterns, brass coils, and glass tubes filled with faint, ghostly light. You run your fingers over the cool rim of a light bulb, feeling the silence it contains. We often think of electricity as something outside us, she begins, but in truth, it's within us too. You take a seat as she opens an old leather journal. The name Benjamin Franklin is etched on the first page. You close your eyes, and soon you're drifting through time, standing in a quiet field, a storm rumbling in the distance. Franklin flies his kite into the sky, the key hanging below it. Then, a spark. Not an explosion, but a whisper of discovery. Electricity, the sleepy scientist says, isn't created. It's revealed. Soon, you're in a 19th-century laboratory with Michael Faraday, watching coils of copper spin within magnets. A gentle hum fills the air. Faraday discovered that moving a magnet could generate electricity, a process we now call electromagnetic induction. It's what makes power plants work. What powers your lamp? Your screen. Your dreams. You follow her further, into the mind of Nikola Tesla, who dreamed of wireless energy. You see towers built tall and buzzing, sparks arcing in the sky, and Tesla standing in a storm of his own making, calm and brilliant. He saw a future of light shared through the air, she says. And though not all his dreams came true, many live on in our wires and walls. Back in her lab, the sleepy scientist holds a tiny glowing filament. It's faint, but beautiful. She places it gently inside a blown glass bulb. As she connects it, the room fills with warm amber light. This is Edison's world, but it's also yours, a world where we catch lightning in jars, tame it, and ask it to sing in our circuits. Electricity, she says, is simply the flow of electrons, from atom to atom, carrying energy, possibility, light. You close your eyes and imagine those electrons now, tiny messengers darting through copper veins like streams of light through the dark. You feel them too. In your heartbeat, your breath, the quiet whispers between your neurons as you drift into a deeper peace. Your very thoughts, she says softly, are sparks. You are your own constellation. Outside, the storm has passed. Inside, the light glows steady, soft, and warm. You are safe in this world of wires and wonder. And the hum of sleep begins. Lenses of wonder, the invention of the telescope. Soundscape, soft wind blowing over a hillside. Distant owl hoots. The faint ticking of an antique clock. Then, the gentle turning of a telescope's gears. Tonight, the sleepy scientist welcomes you beneath a blanket of stars, into a dome-shaped observatory nestled on a quiet mountain. A gentle creak as the telescope's dome slides open, revealing a sky awash in silver constellations. Once, the night sky was unknowable, she says. A velvet curtain we could only dream beyond. You sit beside her, sipping warm tea, as she opens a worn star map on the wooden desk before you. Her finger traces a line between the stars Vega and Altair, then stops at a name, Galileo. You close your eyes, and drift backward. Now you're in 1609, walking cobblestone streets in Venice. Galileo Galilei, with ink-stained hands, stands on a balcony holding a long, slender tube, a telescope, one of the first. He points it to the heavens, and suddenly, the moon has mountains. The stars are no longer a flat ceiling, but a deep ocean of light. He saw Jupiter's moons, whispers the sleepy scientist. Dots of light moving night after night, not around Earth, but Jupiter. This, she says, was revolutionary. The telescope didn't just bring clarity, it shifted our place in the universe. You wander now through centuries. Johannes Kepler improving the telescope's design, Herschel discovering Uranus and infrared light, Caroline Herschel finding comets, her eyes steady and calm through the lens. Each one widened the window into the cosmos. And then, you float forward to the Hubble Space Telescope, high above Earth's atmosphere. It circles in silence, sending back images of galaxies, swirls of stars, light years wide, frozen in time. You're no longer on Earth but suspended in orbit, surrounded by stars. Every telescope is a time machine, the sleepy scientist tells you. The farther we look, the deeper we gaze into the past. You imagine peering through one now, the lens focusing not just on stars, but memories, of campfires, of bedtime stories, of the first time you ever saw the Milky Way. She places a small brass telescope in your hand. It's light. Familiar. As you look through it, you no longer see stars. You see possibility. Galileo's eyes. Kepler's calculations. The pulse of distant quasars. The whisper of dark matter. Science is not just the pursuit of knowledge, she says gently. It is the pursuit of wonder. And tonight, that wonder is yours to keep. You lie back beneath the stars, the telescope resting beside you. Somewhere, a meteor cuts across the sky like a soft lullaby. And as your breathing slows, and your body becomes still, you drift through galaxies of dreams, gently carried on the lens of wonder. Hidden colors, the discovery of invisible light. Soundscape, a gentle breeze. The soft chime of wind bells. Glass prisms clinking faintly. The quiet sparkle of sunlight streaming through an old wooden window. Tonight, the sleepy scientist leads you to a cozy, sunlit room lined with books, prisms, and polished lenses. Light filters in through a stained glass window, scattering rainbows across the walls and floor. You step in, mesmerized. She smiles, her fingers tracing the arc of color painted across her desk. We see so little of what's there, she says softly. But light holds many secrets. She reaches for a crystal prism and holds it to the sunlight. Instantly, a rainbow spreads across the far wall. Red to violet, each band shimmers like a dream. You lean in closer, wondering how this magic happens. Then, you feel time begin to shift. You find yourself standing beside Isaac Newton in the 17th century, as he darkens a room and shines light through a prism. He observes that white light isn't pure, it's made of many colors. A revelation. He calls it the spectrum. Newton gave us the colors, the sleepy scientist whispers. But another man saw the invisible. Suddenly, the room fades into the early 1800s. A scientist named William Herschel performs an experiment. He moves thermometers through the rainbow of sunlight. Strangely, one place just beyond red, where no color exists, records the highest temperature. Light you can't see, she says. But you can feel. That is infrared. You now drift into another room, dimmer and cooler. A new experiment unfolds. This time, a screen flashes with eerie purples. It's Johann Ritter who discovers ultraviolet light, just beyond violet on the spectrum. Light that can cause chemical changes. Light that burns even in silence. The spectrum is far greater than our eyes allow, she murmurs. Our world is colored by light we'll never fully see. You begin to feel it. Infrared as warmth on your skin. Ultraviolet as the quiet push of invisible rays from the sun. All around you, hidden light shimmers like starlight behind a curtain. Now, you're floating through modern labs, scientists using infrared to scan galaxies, ultraviolet to explore the sun's corona. Light becomes a language, revealing heat, structure, energy, life. And in that moment, you realize. Even in darkness, the universe glows. We don't just see with our eyes, the sleepy scientist says. We feel. We imagine. And we trust that even what's hidden matters. She places the prism back on the table. The rainbow fades. But you feel the warmth linger. Not just on your skin, but deep within. You lie back on a soft, cushioned bench. The rainbow of thought, of history, of light swirls gently in your mind. Slowly, you feel your breath deepen. Your thoughts soften. Invisible waves, soft and ancient, begin to carry you through space and sleep alike. And soon, you are drifting. Beyond the red. Beyond the violet. Beyond what eyes can see. But what the heart somehow understands. The light of distant suns, telescopes and the stargazers who dreamed. Soundscape, a soft wind brushing over hills. The occasional hoot of an owl. The gentle creak of an old observatory dome opening to the sky. You find yourself standing in a round wooden tower atop a hill. Night has fallen. The ceiling creaks open slowly to reveal a tapestry of stars, blinking and breathing like the pulse of the universe. The sleepy scientist lights a lantern with a golden flame. She motions to an old telescope, its brass frame polished by years of curiosity. This is where dreams became vision, she whispers. When we learn to look beyond, and see farther than ever before. You step closer and peer into the eyepiece. Time stretches. And suddenly, you're in 1609, beside a man adjusting the focus on a homemade telescope. His name is Galileo Galilei, and he's about to change the world. You see what he sees, the moons of Jupiter, the rugged surface of the moon, the misty edge of the Milky Way, now revealed to be countless stars. We thought the heavens were perfect, the sleepy scientist says. But Galileo saw that the sky was wild and full. Not divine marble, but living stone and fire. The telescope becomes a time machine. Now you're with Caroline Herschel in her quiet garden observatory, noting stars and discovering comets with careful precision. Her hands move gently across the sky map, her eyes full of purpose. You drift to the early 20th century, to the vast domes of Mount Wilson Observatory in California. A man named Edwin Hubble turns a telescope toward the nebulae and finds something astonishing. These are galaxies, millions of them, each with billions of stars. And they're not still, she says, her voice barely above the breeze. They're moving away. The universe is expanding. You see a glowing diagram form in the night air. Redshift, a sign that galaxies are racing outward. The light from these stars has traveled millions, even billions of years to reach us. Light, she reminds you, is not just illumination. It is memory. Each photon that reaches your eye carries with it a message from the past, a glimmer of something that once burned bright, now long gone. Looking through a telescope is not just seeing far, it's seeing back in time. As you look again through the eyepiece, you feel your own place in the great order of things. Tiny, yes, but not insignificant. With light, we read the story of the universe, she whispers. Each star a word. Each galaxy a sentence. You lie on a blanket spread beneath the stars. The sky above feels vast but comforting, like a soft quilt stitched with stars. You hear the whisper of wind over the telescope dome. You imagine astronomers from across centuries, all staring upward, asking the same questions, seeking the same wonder. Their eyes, your eyes, still catching the same light. And that light carries you. Carries you over planets and moons. Across spiral galaxies. Past dying stars and birthing ones. Through silence, and shadow, and sleep. Until gently, slowly, you drift off. The light within, bioluminescence and the science of living glow. Soundscape, gentle waves lapping against a quiet shore. Occasional chirps of night insects. The faint fizz of glowing plankton stirred by the tide. The sleepy scientist leads you down a moonlit path toward a darkened beach. The stars above glimmer softly, but something even more magical stirs at your feet. With each step across the wet sand, the ground beneath you glows, a shimmering blue sparkle that bursts around your toes. "Welcome," she says, "to the realm where life makes light." You kneel to touch the water. As your fingers swirl the shallows, the ocean comes alive, glittering with trails of radiant turquoise. Each ripple releases a quiet constellation. This is bioluminescence, the light made by living things. And it's older than the stars in your sky. You're transported into the warm depths of the ocean. Around you, tiny plankton drift and blink like stars. They're dinoflagellates, microscopic creatures that flash when stirred. It's a defense, startling predators, confusing fish. Light isn't always for seeing, she explains. Sometimes, it's for surviving. Suddenly, you're deep in the twilight zone of the sea, far below sunlight's reach. A ghostly fish floats past, its body a lantern, a flicker of eerie green. This is the anglerfish, and its glowing lure is bait in the darkness. You're surrounded by strange beings, squid with light organs, jellyfish trailing glowing ribbons, shrimp that fire bursts of blue from their claws. They light up to attract, to warn, to confuse, and sometimes, she smiles, just to glow. You rise now into a quiet forest. It's night. Fireflies flicker all around. Their tiny lamps flash in perfect patterns, a soft Morse code of love. A male's signal. A female's reply. A glowing dance across the dark leaves. The forest becomes a ballroom of blinking lights. Their glow is a chemical ballet, the sleepy scientist says. Luciferin meets luciferase, and light is born, without heat, without flame. Just light. You walk farther and find a fallen log covered in faintly glowing moss. It's foxfire, a fungus emitting pale green light, illuminating the night from the inside out. Even in the deepest caves, life has found a way to shine. You're suddenly beneath the earth, staring up at the glowworms of New Zealand. Their silk threads shimmer with pale blue, like stars strung across stone. Back above ground, the scientist sits beside you at the glowing shore again. She speaks gently. Bioluminescence reminds us that even in darkness, something is always shining. That light isn't always overhead. Sometimes, it lives inside. The tide returns, glowing a little more with each wave. The stars above seem to wink in harmony with the sea below. You lie down on the soft sand. Around you, the beach glows. The ocean glows. The sky glows. And inside you, a calm, gentle light flickers too. Sleep finds you there, cradled in the soft shimmer of life's glow. Galileo's lantern, seeing the universe for the first time. Soundscape, a quiet Italian countryside. Crickets chirping softly. The occasional hoot of an owl. A faint crackle of candlelight. Tonight, the sleepy scientist invites you into a time long before satellites or supercomputers. A time when looking up at the night sky was the greatest mystery of all. You find yourself in Padua, Italy, in the early 1600s. A young scientist named Galileo Galilei stands on a small stone balcony. He lifts a simple telescope. Just a metal tube with glass lenses, to his eye. What he saw, the scientist whispers, changed everything. You gaze with him, and suddenly the moon appears before you, closer than ever. Not smooth and perfect as once believed, but mountainous and pocked with craters. The heavens, Galileo would write, are made of the same stuff as Earth. With each glance, he challenged the notion that celestial bodies were divine and untouchable. He showed that they were real, material, and reachable. He turned his telescope toward Jupiter, and you watch alongside him as he spots tiny points of light orbiting the planet. Moons, he realizes. Worlds moving around another world. It's a moment of revolution, a shift from Earth being the center of the universe to something far more expansive. You can almost feel the world tilting under your feet. Now, the sleepy scientist leads you deeper into the past. You see Galileo sketching, writing by candlelight, eyes wide with wonder. But you also feel the weight of resistance. His discoveries were not welcomed by all. They threatened old beliefs. And so, he was silenced, placed under house arrest, his books banned. And yet, she says softly, his light never dimmed. You're standing beside his old wooden telescope, now resting in a quiet museum in Florence. Time has worn it, but the lens still glimmers in the dim light. The sleepy scientist gently places the telescope in your hands. You peer through it, not expecting much, but what you see isn't just the moon or stars. You see a question, a hunger to understand. You see a dare, to challenge what's known. You see light, not just in the sky, but in the human spirit. Outside, the sky over Florence deepens into velvet night. Stars bloom in clusters, and a comet blazes quietly across the heavens. The sleepy scientist smiles beside you. Galileo taught us to look closer. To look differently. And never to stop asking. You sit beneath the stars, wrapped in a blanket of thought, curiosity, and courage. Above you, the cosmos gleams as it did for Galileo. Inside you, wonder glows a little brighter. Sleep calls gently, like a faraway star guiding you home. The quantum light, secrets in the smallest spark. Soundscape, gentle humming, distant chimes, and a soft ticking sound like the inner gears of a watch turning in slow motion. Tonight, we drift into a quieter, smaller world, a world invisible to the eye, yet responsible for every shimmer, every color, every sunrise. The sleepy scientist welcomes you to a dreamscape of particles and photons, where the rules of reality behave like poetry. You are lying beneath a wide sky, but this sky is different. Instead of stars, you see light in its rawest form. Tiny packets, dancing like fireflies, photons. Each photon is a messenger of energy. A spark that travels from the sun. Bounces off leaves, reflects in mirrors. And enters your eye to create what you call seeing. But these are no ordinary messengers. Photons obey the strange and magical rules of quantum physics. Rules that defy logic but reveal deep truths. In the quantum world, the scientist whispers. Light is both a wave and a particle, depending on how you look at it. You now find yourself in a quiet laboratory filled with glowing diagrams and soft blue light. A young Albert Einstein stands nearby, surrounded by chalkboards scribbled with symbols. He's not the wild-haired icon yet. He's calm, focused, dreaming of how light moves, how it behaves. He introduces the idea of quanta. Discrete little pieces of energy, and shows how they explain something called the photoelectric effect. Why light can knock electrons off metal. It wasn't just about brightness, Einstein says gently. It was about frequency. About color. The blue light was strong enough to push, the red light wasn't. You feel yourself getting smaller. Smaller than molecules. Smaller than atoms. Drifting down to where electrons orbit nuclei like tiny moons. And photons can knock them free, like skipping stones across a pond. Time shifts again, and you're in a modern facility. A massive machine humming quietly, the Large Hadron Collider. Here, scientists study particles even tinier than electrons. And still, they use light, laser pulses, magnetic fields, to explore these building blocks of matter. The sleepy scientist guides you along a corridor where quantum physicists work late into the night. Measuring invisible things with lasers and mirrors. The deeper we go, she says, the more we realize how strange and beautiful the universe truly is. Now, you float again, back into the world of dreams. But you carry something new. The knowledge that light, even the faintest glimmer, holds endless mysteries. Every glow from a candle. Every spark from a star. Every sunrise and sunset. They are made of countless photons, traveling, dancing, disappearing and reappearing. They tell stories, not just of sight, but of energy, time, and space. You drift gently now, surrounded by soft, glowing motes of light. The air hums with a peaceful rhythm, like a lullaby written by the universe itself. The sleepy scientist tucks a final note into your thoughts. Even in silence, even in darkness, the universe is still singing, in light. You exhale slowly, eyes closing. Bathed in quantum dreams, you sleep. Softly, curiously, completely. Light in the mind, the science of vision and perception. Soundscape, a soft heartbeat-like rhythm, distant wind chimes, the whisper of turning pages. Tonight, we close our eyes, and discover what it truly means to see. For so long, light was considered the mystery, waves or particles, speed or energy, but the final piece of the puzzle lives within us. It's not just about light hitting the eyes. It's about how the brain paints the world with it. You find yourself in a quiet observatory nestled in the hills, lit only by the soft orange glow of lanterns. The sleepy scientist stands near the wide-open dome, looking not at the stars, but gently placing her hand on a simple mirror. "Let's take a journey," she says. "Not through the sky, but through the self." She invites you to recline, gaze inward, and soon, you're floating within your own mind. Inside this dreamlike world, corridors of memory and perception intertwine. You drift past glowing pathways, neurons firing softly like fireflies in the dark. Every flash is a thought, a memory, a color your eyes once saw and your brain kept. You arrive in a grand library made entirely of light and shadow. Books float in the air, but these aren't books made of paper. They're your experiences, and every one is written in light. A soft voice narrates. The human eye can only detect a tiny sliver of the electromagnetic spectrum. And yet, with that sliver, the brain creates entire realities. You float toward a glowing diagram of the retina. Rods and cones dancing, interpreting brightness and color. Each signal shoots down the optic nerve and lands in the visual cortex. A quiet canyon at the back of your brain where light becomes meaning. What's incredible isn't just that we see. It's that our minds interpret so much more. Depth, distance, motion, contrast, intention, beauty. You think of a sunset. Not just the colors, but the emotions it stirred. The memory of warmth. The ache of goodbye. The hope of tomorrow. The sleepy scientist speaks again. You see, the science of light is not just physics. It's emotion. It's perception. It's everything we remember, and everything we imagine. She walks beside you now, guiding you through a gallery of dreams. Each painting is made entirely of color and memory. A loved one's smile, the shimmering ocean, the glow of fireflies in the night. And some of them aren't even real. They are dreams of light. Things your brain never saw but still created. You now drift toward a quiet chamber at the center of the mind. Here, the sleepy scientist places a tiny glowing orb in your hand. "This," she says softly, "is not just the light you see with. It's the light of thought. The light of love. The light that shapes your world." You hold it to your heart. You feel the warmth of understanding. That even in the darkest places, your mind can conjure galaxies. You are the painter. The observer. The dreamer. All thanks to light. And the astonishing gift of perception. The gallery fades. The corridors dim. And you feel yourself returning. Gently. To your quiet bed. The sleepy scientist whispers from somewhere far but familiar. "Rest well, gentle traveler. Your mind is a lantern. Let it flicker freely in the dark." And with that, You surrender to sleep. Wrapped in memory. Bathed in inner light. A gentle farewell, the light we carry within. Soundscape. Slow ambient tones, the soft hum of a planet turning, wind rustling over a sleeping forest. Tonight, dear dreamer, we come to the end of our gentle scientific odyssey, through atoms and galaxies, through light and darkness, through thought, time, and wonder. But endings, like sunsets, are not really endings. They're transitions. Soft handovers between night and day, between waking and dreaming, between knowing and becoming. You find yourself walking through a golden forest in early morning. The trees are tall and old, but the light that filters through them is new. As if it's the first dawn in the world. Ahead, the sleepy scientist stands beneath a glowing arch made of branches and beams of light. She smiles warmly. You've come far, she says. You've seen how light travels, how sound moves, how carbon dances. But now, I want you to see something even more extraordinary. She leads you to a small pool, clear and still. The sky above is a swirl of dawn colors, lilac, peach, silver. You look into the pool and see not your reflection, but your journey. Memories from all 25 parts drift across the surface. The swirl of galaxies. The flicker of firelight in a cave. The sparkle of stardust on your hands. The eyes of creatures from ancient Earth. The pulse of your own breathing. Every image is made of the same thing. Light, energy, curiosity. You sit quietly by the pool. The sleepy scientist speaks again, gently. The true miracle of science isn't just what it explains, but how it awakens something in us. We are not separate from the stars. We are their children. We are not outsiders to nature. We are its pulse. And when we look into the mysteries of the world, we find the light we carry within. You close your eyes. Your breath slows. The birds sing the first notes of morning. The light of understanding glows softly in your chest, not as answers, but as wonder. You feel it now. The same light that moves through the sun, through plants, through stories. Moves through you. The sleepy scientist rises, wraps a warm shawl around your shoulders, and walks back into the forest of thought. But not before leaving a whisper in the air. Whenever you forget how magical the world is, just close your eyes, breathe deep. And come find me in the dream of science. You lie down in the soft grass, letting the light of this journey wash over you. Until even that fades. Now there is only breath. Only stillness. Only sleep. You've journeyed far, dreamer. Now, rest.